Hello, Tonya Joyner-Scott here. I am the visionary of what it is that you are about to see, what you are about to experience. This is Shine. You know, I'm so honored to have before me right now a group of women whose lives have not only impacted mine, but be prepared because it's about to impact yours. You see, in life, we live. Through this living, we experience. And those things that we go through, what do? They create, they develop, and they mold. Oftentimes we don't realize the power that we actually have. It's the power to actually gear and to steer the very life that we desire, regardless of the things that we have experienced. See, experiences are good, but sometimes they aren't so good. And many times people don't know what to do with them. They don't know what to do about them. But one thing that I'm known for saying, and I want to say to you right now, is exposure brings closure. And I'm so grateful because I have surrounding me right now all of these beautiful women who want to expose some things. See, the exposure has already started. And now that we sit here together in this beautiful home, and what we want to do now is to bring some things to you, because what I believe is going to happen is there's going to be some connectivity. See, there's going to be some things that you hear and you're going to say, I can relate to that. Sometimes as we live, we think, I don't know how I'm going to come out of this. Even down to the state of how in the world do you forgive someone for hurting you so deeply? But that's a power that you have. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get started. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to share. See, I had somebody say to me before, Tonya, you're the conversationalist. And I said, you know what? That sounds about right. Why? I could be standing in the bathroom and someone could look at me, not even know who I am, and by the time we leave there 15 minutes later, I happen to know their business. Just through a little conversation. So for us even just to be here now, it's time for us to have some conversations. Let's talk a little bit. Let's share. Because it's when you begin to share is when things begin to break. Yes. Word of God, it even teaches us that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So there's some testimonies that's about to flow here with us on today. And in it doing so, there's going to be some more healing to take place. So thank you so much for being here, my beautiful sisters. It was such an honor for me, number one, to meet each and every one of you. But there's so many things that we draw from when we actually come together. There's healing from laughter. Yes. And we get that from you so much. Yes. Where did you find it?
I think if I was to start anywhere, I would go back to the day that I left the love of my life, but it was an abusive relationship. It was the kind of abuse where every day I was saying, God, I don't want to die, but I wouldn't mind if I didn't get up the next day. And I remember, you can relate to that, and I can remember this one particular time we got into an argument because his family used to come over all the time, and it was never a problem. But the moment my family came over, it was an issue. And I remember one night coming home, I had went out and my sisters were there when I left, but when I came back, they wasn't. So I called like, hey, where y'all at? Well, he told us we had to get out. So me being me, I walked into the bedroom and I'm poking. I know you didn't put my family out, I'm fussing, not knowing that was gonna be the day, one of the days that changed my life. So in response, instead of yelling at me, he got up with his fists and he proceeded to punch me in my face. And he did not stop until my whole face was shifted. And I laid there and I stayed still because I felt like if I move, he's gonna come back. And in laying there, I hear him get up and he's going back and forth and he's grabbing clothes and he leaves. He calls someone and they come and they get him. I laid in the bed. The next morning, I didn't get up, I didn't call nobody. My cousin came to get her suitcase and she called me to say I'm outside and I told her the door was unlocked. But y'all, I did not even tell her what had just happened. I'm laying there in pain. I'm 7 months pregnant and I can't even open my eyes to see. So finally, I showed my neighbor and she said, you got to go to the hospital. Went to the hospital. My grandfather walked in. Y'all, this is the smoothest cat I have ever met. My granddaddy, bad. And he walked, yours. And I remember he walked in and he broke down crying. Just from walking in the room. And I never wanted to see that again. So I forgave the guy that did it. The doctors were saying to my mother, they were saying to people in the room, we're going to have to do surgery on her face. We'll fly in specialists. We'll bring in, whoever we have to. We'll do this for her, but not until after she has this baby. So at this point, the doctors leave out and I'm laying in the bed and I got, someone saying, you're going to have the surgery. They're talking to me, Christina, please choose the surgery. Let them doctors fix you. And they're already prepping me for the next 2 months. Because remember I told you I was 7 months pregnant. So they're already prepping me for looking like this for the next 2 months. Everybody leaves the room. But how many of you know God didn't leave the room when everybody walked out? So everybody leaves the room. I ain't have no choice but to hear him. So I'm laying there and I hear daughter. You mean to tell me, after all that I've done, after all that I've been through, you still calling me daughter? I turned my back on you. I was doing everything I thought I was bad enough to do. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't praising him. I wasn't acknowledging him. And he called me daughter. And he said, do you trust me now? Wow. And I remember laying there and I was like, you're not talking to me. And he asked me again, do you trust me now? And I had an attitude. Like, fine, God, I'll trust you. I ain't got no choice, I'm mad. And I just submitted with my mouth, but not really with my heart. I submitted like I trust you because I really didn't have a choice. So I'm telling him, I trust you. I done tried everything else, God, so I'll try you. And my face was healed within 2 weeks. But I went back. What made me leave him, we were arguing, and I remembered that night. And we got into a fight. He threw me through the wall, like my imprint, my body went through the wall. And as he was coming towards me the next time, I flipped over the bed. We had a gun in the closet. I grabbed the gun, knocked it off of safety, and I'm holding it and I'm shaking and I'm just like holding it towards him. And he realized that I'm aiming it. Keep in mind I done had the baby. So she's in the bassinet between us. He comes across, he grabs the gun. So the baby's right here. So we fighting over a loaded gun off safety. And my baby's in the middle. And I tell people all the time, somebody was praying. Yes. Somebody was praying. The gun didn't go off. And we just stopped. And it was like, after we stopped, he walked out. And I looked in the mirror. And I heard myself singing it. I didn't say it out loud, but I heard myself singing it. Girl, you got to start loving you. I knew I wasn't going to stop loving him. But I needed to start loving me.
That's good.
That is good.
So that moment defined the birthing of me. And how I found my laughter was because in that moment where I said I got to start loving me, it wasn't that day, but the steps that I took. As long as I was stuck in the mindset of this is all that I deserve, I was going to stay there. So my stepping out on faith was the moment that I decided, God, since you love me, I'm going to love me. Now show me what I look like to you. So when I asked him to show me what I look like to him, it was not pretty. But the fact that he showed me this is what I see when I see you and I still love you.
Wow.
Yes.
How could I not only love him, but love me back? So that's when I started to smile again. That's when I started to laugh. So the laughter that I share and what people say they get when they're around me that makes them laugh too, that comes from because I want everybody to feel that same love that God allowed me to feel. I want you to know you're just as worthy of it. Yes. You're just as worthy of it. And not to beat yourself up, because I used to say, I chose this man. I did this. If I hadn't been, well, I didn't love him enough. Like I would put all this blame on me. But I had to learn, I can't be responsible for your actions and what you do. But I can be responsible for me. And guess what? I love me. And even if you don't love me, I do. And while I'm in the room with you, I'm going to be loving on me. And by the time you leave, you're going to love on me too.
I love it. I love it. And it is so true. It is so powerful. And thank you so much for that. And I know still there's more. There's so much more even. I started to ask tell us how many years was it between that first time and the next time that you actually were experienced that abuse, that type of abuse?
It wasn't years after the figuring of the face from the gun situation. That was only 5 months.
That was just 5 months.
And with him, he wasn't my first, but he was my first love. And I had my first child at 16. He's not the father, but when I met him, I saw no one else. And he was the one who, it could be 3 o'clock in the morning, I could have a breath of gas in the car, not even a little bit. Yeah. And he called and say, "Where you at? I'm putting my way to you. Where you at?" And literally pray my way home. Don't went down here and all I got is an empty tank of gas and a wet booty.
I got you.
I mean, just
be real.
But with him though, we were back and forth from the time I was 16 to the time I was 31 years old. Wow. And it was abusive. The first time abuse was introduced to our relationship, I was 19 years old. And I couldn't tell anybody because I was I'm not gonna be that girl. I was so feisty and so a fighter. To tell somebody I'm in an abusive relationship would have went against everything the image that I had already put out there. Yeah. And I worked hard on my image. I created this character of who I wanted everyone to see. And if I had let them know what I was going through, I would have had to come out of character. And I wasn't ready to come out of character. Because my role, I knew how to play.
Yeah, come on.
And I mean, when you know how to play a role,
that, right?
Yes.
So when you got to be yourself, that's a whole different ball game from the role.
Right. Then you'd have to admit what was going on to yourself, not to the others.
Yes,
and that's just as hard.
So you played it good, huh?
Listen,
Facade.
the Oscar goes to I played my role.
Wow.
And understanding that at the end of the day, I still got to be with me. So I can tell the world whatever I want to tell the world. When I go behind them closed doors, I can't leave me out there. I got to come back with me.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to lose those memories. I'm not going to lose that. So I have to applaud you for loving you.
Yeah.
I wish I had that strength in some of the things that I went through.
Do you have it now?
I do.
Tell us why.
I have that strength today because I know that I know who I am, but mainly I know whose I am.
Come on now.
And I didn't know that growing up early, being in a family of all kinds of, I'm just going to use the word dysfunctional in all ways, and starting out early, I wanted this huge career, right? I just wanted my family to be proud of me. I had a mom that I thought didn't love me. So as soon as I graduated from high school, I went in the military. And as a 17-year-old in the military, and you go to basic training, and you don't think you're gonna make it through. It's more than you've ever had in your life. And you make it through that part to get to the part that's supposed to be good, and your life is supposed to be starting. You're standing in formation for PT, and the first sergeant calls you out, and he takes you in a room, and he gives you an ultimatum. I don't know nothing. He says, your career can start here or it can end here. And I'm looking at him like, and the next thing is take your clothes off. I'm a private. Who am I gonna go tell this to? Because if I go to the person that's over him, who they gonna get rid of? So what the statement he made in my case was so true. Your career can start here or it can end here. And he did these things to me for over 6 months. He did it so much till, and I had only been with one guy in my life before I went in the military. And this went on so much till when we broke for Christmas, he ultimated me. I met this man's mom. I met his family. My crazy mind started telling me that this is your man, right? The guy you got at home ain't really yours. That's just somebody you go back to until after the holidays. He did the same thing. He came one day, he got me out of formation. But this time we didn't go to his room. We went to a hotel room. He allowed other men to do the same thing. When I tell you that writing and putting this on paper and getting help, I emphasize therapy. Yes. I emphasize I couldn't go tell my mama this. I couldn't go tell my brother this. I couldn't tell my sisters this. But I emphasize therapy. What really tore me apart, and even though the healing was there, I get in this place sometimes and I'll sit and I'll just start crying because I know who I am today and I know whose I am today. But what about all them little girls I left that he did the same thing to after I left? What about the guilt of, even if you would have lost your career, look how many more, they would have at least been looking. You know what I mean? They would have at least had their eyes open. You know, I wrote about this because, believe it or not, it's happening today too, y'all. This was 1982. We're in 2019, and I promise you, it's a young girl on active duty right now, getting molested by her first sergeant, being made to do things she's never done, never seen, never even could think of. And it did happen, and it hurt my whole life. I'm old, I ain't gonna say how old. But I do believe today that has hindered or tarnished any relationship that I had ever been in. I think that is what took me to the next part of my book, the drugs, the alcohol, the manipulation, the whatever I could do to make me feel good. Right. Hallelujah, God. But I found out.
Yes.
What I found out.
Yes.
Hallelujah. It's all I need to make me feel good is one man. His name is Jesus. Yes. Right? He's going to take care. He covers a multitude. And that's what he has done. He has covered me. He has covered me in so many areas of my life. You know, I sit here today. I attempted suicide 3 times. I was left in the hospital for dead. Told my mom, go make my funeral arrangements. But God. But God. So I believe sitting here today in this room, me sitting here is no mistake. I don't think it's a mistake for any of us that's sitting here, that when this book, Shine, comes out, guys, grab a copy. Life-changing. You know, being here with these ladies, some of them been sharing some things with me, and I thought all my healing was done. But I got a little bit more. You know what I mean? I got a little bit more when I hear just a little bit more. Even riding here to Atlanta, y'all, coming to Georgia, I found out some stuff. I'm like, wow. You know, sometimes you hear somebody else's story, and it immediately makes you think, you know what, God, what I went through wasn't nothing. What I went through wasn't nothing. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to this amazing visionary, y'all. I'm so grateful that, because I never knew, or I never thought I would have an opportunity to share the experiences that God has allowed me to come through. Not only allowed me to come through, but allowed me to survive, to be able to come back and talk about. You know, Tonya, you said it. We're overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Yes. And if I keep the things that have happened to me inside of me, they ain't gonna help nobody. They ain't gonna help nobody. So I'm grateful for being here today.
Thank you. Absolutely phenomenal. Many people don't feel like their story is big enough, even.
Yes.
You know, sometimes they'll feel like, or sometimes they think like, this is too crazy, that you really begin to look at yourself in a poor way. But I just want to say that even now, because there's a variety here, and there's some links, because even as I hear some things, and even though we spent some time together, there's still some things that we all haven't completely come out there to talk about. So we even having our own aha moments here a little bit too. You know, would you agree? It's like we know a little bit like, what? You know, kind of thing is happening too. But the thing is, and my point in all of that right now is just basically, and even for everyone that will pick up this documentary, and for everyone who's going to spend some time with us, just to realize your value. And what we have the tendency to do too much of is compare. Yes. We'll compare the good, and God knows we even want to compare the bad.
How crazy are we?
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's ridiculous, and we've got to learn how not to do that. You know, everybody's life is to be lived, and like I said, you know, before, it's a matter of what we be informed into. But I'm gonna tell you, my husband and I, one of the things that we talk about often, and I think, and even as we sit here today, for everyone who hits play, this entire thing, my thing is, you have got to come to a place of really understanding who you are and knowing your value. So a big part of me even coming out and getting out of my own way was identity. Tonya, you need to know who you are. You need to embrace who you are. You need to walk out who you are with everything that comes along with it. I don't care what's been said to you. I don't care what's happened to you. You've got to know your power, who you are, and you have to walk that thing out. And that's basically what's happening. So even as I say to you, and I'm listening, and I'm so grateful, and you share, because honestly, a lot of people have so much shame. We get so ashamed at the pitfalls, ashamed about the things that people have done and have said to us. We want to count it as our own even. You know, I'm responsible for you doing what it is that you've done to me. And we take so much ownership over the lie that spewed it out, even though it's happened. So you got to understand, a fact ain't the truth. The fact of the matter may be that this happened.
You better come on.
The fact of the matter may be that you said this, but the truth of the matter is who I am, and that's who it is that you walk out. So if nothing else, we want everybody to come to understand who they are, because it's time for you to say it for me now.
Shine.
Come on, somebody.